Hi, my name is Chris Miller. I'm in Business 501, and my presentation is on LLCs and ethics. The first thing we need to look at in this presentation is what is an LLC? What does an LLC even stand for? An LLC is a limited liability company. Companies often become LLCs to do exactly what it sounds like, to limit their liability. There are different types of LLCs, and a common one that you might see is a PLC. A PLC is a professional liability company. These are oftentimes used by lawyers' offices and doctors' offices. How does an LLC limit your liability? Well, if you look at your assets that you have on hand in kind of two pools, you have personal assets, and these things might be your house, a vehicle, potentially property that you own, savings, retirement. And then in another pool, you have business assets. Business assets might be a building, it might be specialty equipment that's needed to run your business, it might be cash on hand. What a limited liability company does is it actually separates these, or more commonly referred to, it puts a veil between these two pools of assets, and it protects your personal assets while keeping your business assets exposed, because after all, you are running a business. It's fairly simple to see why an individual or a group of individuals might form an LLC. One of the reasons LLCs are so popular is they're actually fairly easy to form. In fact, in Michigan, where I'm from, an LLC can be formed completely online. Each state actually regulates LLCs in their state, so you would need to check with your state to find out exactly what the requirements are for the LLC in your state. Let's say you want to start an LLC in the state of Michigan. Maybe you're going to start a tree removal business and you want to protect your personal assets in case a tree falls on a house or a car. How would you go about starting that LLC in the state of Michigan? Well, the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to choose a name for your LLC. Maybe you'll call yours Paul Bunyan and Sons LLC. Well, you need to first check and see that Paul Bunyan and Sons is not being used by any other company in the state of Michigan. And then second, you need to make sure that the letters LLC does appear in the title of your company. Then you'll go through and fill out the application. They'll ask you some questions regarding your company. And then you'll be required to pay a $50 fee. You can pay additional if you'd like to have your LLC expedited, and you can actually get same-day service in the state of Michigan. Once you submit your form, in about 8 to 10 business days, you'll hear back to see if that was accepted. If it wasn't accepted, you are offered the opportunity to correct it so that you can have it accepted. Now that you've formed your LLC, what are some potential ethical issues that could arise? In the example that we used earlier, where it's a single person forming an LLC and it's being managed by one individual, a potential ethical issue that could arise in this situation is maybe some shortcuts are taken because of the liability that is being limited. So maybe in our example, maybe the person cutting down the tree isn't using some of the proper safety equipment or some of the proper ropes to make sure that a tree doesn't fall on a house or a car. Because they're thinking, even if it does fall and damage something, I don't have a lot of business assets, so I can take some shortcuts or potential risks because my liability is limited. However, like many things in real life, oftentimes LLCs are not just a single person, but they involve multiple people. So there are basically two types of LLCs. An LLC that's a single person who creates it and manages it. And then there's LLCs where multiple people create it and manage it. In this second category, there is manager managed, and that's where in the LLC, maybe multiple people are owners in the company, but one or maybe two are chosen to manage that LLC. There's also member managed, and that's maybe where you have 3 or 4 people who own the company and they all make equal decisions and they all have kind of equal power in the company. These different types of LLCs, when you add more people, the ethical dilemmas definitely become more apparent. What are some of the ethical dilemmas that a manager might face in a manager-managed LLC? Well, first of all, that manager has a fiduciary responsibility of care. They also have a duty of loyalty, so their motives, their purposes, their goals when making decisions can't reflect their own person, but they have to reflect the LLC. They have to be in the best interest of the LLC. This can become a difficult thing, to separate your personal goals and your personal motives with that of the company's. And this often leads to ethical gray areas. Well, one of the ways is as a manager, you can ask yourself, would a reasonable professional in my scenario do what I'm about to do? So if I were in court standing in front of a group of people who shared the same occupation that I do, would they say it is reasonable to do what I'm about to do? That's generally a good test to look at when you're going to make a decision and when you want to be careful to make the right decision and to be ethical. Another way of avoiding potential ethical problems in an LLC is to really be careful that you have separated the company with your personal assets and even with your personal goals and objectives. One of the ways that's very easy to do this right off the bat, one of the first things you need to do is actually create separate finances. So you need to have a specific account, a bank account or a savings account, that the money goes into from the company. Oftentimes, if people start an LLC and they think, well, I'll put it in with my personal savings account, this does what is called piercing the veil. That veil that's being set up to protect your personal assets actually gets pierced because you start mixing your money together. And oftentimes when you stand in front of a jury or in front of a court or another lawyer, what they'll point out is that you mix your finances. So they're obviously not separate, and then they become unprotected because that veil has been pierced. It's also important to separate other things, to separate your desires, your goals with the companies, so that you are often acting on the best interest, so that you're always acting on the best interest of the company, and that you're not acting on the best interest of yourself. Because when you start acting on the best interest of yourself and not paying attention to the best interest of the company, that's definitely where problems will start to arise. As a manager, to help make sure that you avoid any ethical problems in your LLC, is to carefully have your policies and procedures documented. Not only should these policies and procedures be documented, but they should also be vetted by other people within the organization, including the other owners and the other managers. This process of carefully vetting them and having them written and documented will go a long way when you are making decisions for the company and when you're trying to carefully make sure that you're acting on the best interest of the company and not looking towards your own best interest. Having these policies and procedures will give you a guideline for making those decisions and avoiding potential ethical dilemmas that you might face as a manager. In conclusion, we have seen that an LLC is a very popular and powerful tool that companies use to protect personal assets and keep them separate from business assets. One of the great things of an LLC is that it is fairly simple to form. But like any other powerful tool, it has to be used responsibly, and managers need to act on the best interest of the company, and they need to be careful to keep personal and business separate. Following some pretty simple rules and establishing some pretty key policies and procedures can go a long way in making sure that a LLC stays ethical.